The next item is approval of the 2012-2013 parent-teacher conferences.
So we approved next year's calendar, and as I was going through some of our documents, I realized that we had not approved the parent-teacher conference dates for next year. So we had been getting some information. I know Mr. Hay had been engaging his staff to be looking at conferences a little differently, which is why we did not have this ready to go right away when we approved the calendar. For our elementary schools and the middle school, it is similar to what we have done in the past. The middle school has gone with more evening sessions, and then you'll notice that their Friday afternoon sessions, they really focus on students who are struggling, and they make phone calls and set up actual appointments with families. And again, the elementary is very different in that our elementary teachers do have a pretty high participation rate. Most parents come in for conferences, and an elementary teacher is going to be meeting with 25 kids, whereas a middle school teacher may have 120 students that they need to be dealing with, just as the high school does. So Mr. Hay has put together some different times that would provide for parental involvement. You'll notice that the first mid-quarter results or conferences in October would be traditional evening conferences where parents can go around from teacher to teacher, but then at the end of that first quarter, he's looking at something to do with community engagement. And I don't know if you fleshed that all out yet, but working on that. And then the Friday morning, again, focusing with struggling learners.
Will that be communicated to the parents so that they know it's more for struggling learners and they don't need to show up if their students are doing well?
What we would intend to do with your approval is to not publish those other dates as parent-teacher conferences, but really to publish those as a different event. And the concept that we're trying to do is, as most of you all know, when you get to our conferences beyond the first one, it's like a ghost town at the high school. And the only parents that are there are the parents who feel it's their good parental obligation to go and learn about the A-pluses that their kids are getting. And so it's not as meaningful as it probably was, or as I know it was, before we had electronic grade books, before we had the kind of communication capabilities with email and the other systems that are in place now. So we want to try and take the time that we have with our staff and say, what can we do to make this a more meaningful way to engage with parents and to engage with the broader community. So we have two different teams working on these. One that's working on the community, well, three different teams: community engagement, the success showcase, and then the struggling learners. Those two struggling learners dates, different from the middle school where they're really focusing on setting up individual appointments with the parents. We're looking at those will be dates where if we have kids who are struggling, it will be a required day for them to be at school working with the teacher in whose class they're struggling. So we're still trying to toss around logistics of that, what the criteria would be for that. There's transportation. There's lots of logistical issues that go with that bag. But what we know is if we've got kids early in the game that we can find a way to intervene with them and turn it around and keep that hope alive, we're going to have a much better chance of keeping them on track to graduation. The Success Showcase is the next one that we have probably the most conceptual framework for, and it's essentially a huge open house kind of an event where we want to be able to incorporate. Margie Ginrich wants to have her spring showcase during that time. We want to have the choir doing a performance that night, the band doing a performance that night. We want to have our science students doing some labs and experiments that little kids are invited in to come and participate in. So it would be an evening that everybody on our faculty is involved in planning. All of our students are involved in some way in planning and putting on, but is open for the entire community, from the 4-year-old kindergarten kids all the way up to the senior citizens in the retirement homes, to be invited in to engage with what good things are happening. The name right now, Success Showcase, to learn about the great things happening at Toma High School, to build that long-term partnership.
I like that.
So the other one, the community engagement piece, those other two sort of afternoon times, we don't have a lot of flesh around those right now. We've got a team that's working on it, and they're going to meet a couple times yet this summer. At the end of the day, if those two end up being times where we say we're going to just have a simple open house, come and learn about what's going on in our classes, I think that would be progress from where we are right now with the use of that time. So we're trying to take this time, make it meaningful, and make it truly about engaging with the community and with parents.
Thank you. I love it. Anytime we can try to improve and have something interesting and relevant and that gets a crowd in there for a little more specific purpose rather than just having a few people march in under sort of an obligatory sense of finding out what they already know. Yeah. I'm all for it. I think I appreciate a little creative thinking here that you've done.
We're going to try and make it enticing to everybody in the community, and we'll give it a go and see what happens.
As he was speaking, I was thinking that same thing, David, and you said it. It's showcase for Toma, and people that have their students in school should really get out and take a look at what's going on with education and the buildings in Toma and what they're paying for.
Mm-hmm. And even people who don't have kids in school.
Right. It's something else.
It's important for everybody to know about the great things that are going on.
Right.
That's, as we've tossed the idea around with faculty, it doesn't take but 30 seconds and somebody's got another idea. Well, with my foods class, we could do international foods sort of a theme, and foods from around the world, and invite some of the local businesses that do that to help come in and do demos with our students on that. So it's a way to engage, but it's a way to hopefully foster those partnerships too. I don't want to oversell it at this point in time because it's our first go round, but we're pretty excited about it.
Already backing away from it. No.
But
Lower expectations.
Right.
The block of time, though, for the struggling learners is important, and I'm glad that will be a little more focused to make sure that those students have time to talk to teachers and see how they can get back on track.
The flip side of that for the students who aren't struggling, and then for teachers who don't have students who, for example, have one or more it's very rare that our AP chemistry teacher would have a student with a failing grade. But she might have a student that needs a little bit of time going through a lab again because they just didn't get one small concept of it. And so we provide time for not only to bring kids up, but to take kids who are here and sort of move them forward as well. More to come on that in fall.
Well, thanks for the creative thinking.
And this is, I just have a question about the Robert Cooper program. Did they schedule parents to come in during those times?
Yes.
They do, so, okay, because they have quite a bit of time, so.
Well, they have the same, everyone across the board has the same amount of time.
But they do schedule individual parent conferences.
Yes.
Just like that.
But
They schedule blocks to
Right,
do progress updates with each kid.
That's really great and important.
I'd look for a motion then for approval of the 2012-2013 parent-teacher conferences.
So moved. Second.
There's a motion and a second for approval of the parent-teacher conferences as presented. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries, and the 2012-13 parent-teacher conferences are approved.
Thank you.